I'm going to call this meeting to order. This is the regular meeting of the Leonard Village Council. Today is January 10th. I'm sorry, I'm looking at my other one. Where am I?
So romantic.
Yeah. Okay. That sure feels Anyway, I know this by heart. So today is February 14th, 2022, Valentine's Day, and obviously happy Valentine's Day. And I would like to pass along before we start to keep our thoughts and prayers for Mary Haynes, longtime resident. She passed away February 10th last week. So our thoughts, and I'm sure on behalf of the council, our thoughts and prayers go out to her and her family. If we could, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and a brief invocation.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Anybody here to give a brief invocation? If not, Lord, we ask you to look down on us as we do our duty to our village and our residents, and pray that we make good decisions, and wish everybody safe health and well-being. Thank you. Okay, I stalled as long as I could. Okay, can we have a roll call for attendance of the village council?
Absolutely. President McDonough.
Here?
Mr. Kennedy.
Here.
Mrs. Arundel. Here. Mrs. Swack. Here. Mr. Hawkins.
Here.
And we'll note for the record that both village clerk, Lori Zona, and village treasurer are present. Okay. Trying to get organized here, my apologies. Thought I was, and then I wasn't. Okay. Yeah, I was just using it, and I also stacked it.
What's up?
Get all the notes on it. Anyway, thank you, Lord. Okay, council has the minutes of the January 10th regular meeting. At this time, I'd like to make an amendment to those that we forgot to put the meeting adjournment down, and it was, what did we say, 7:52 p.m. and that'd be on the last page. Other than that, are there any other corrections or amendments? If none, a motion would be in order to approve the minutes of the January 10th meeting as amended.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the amended minutes of the January 10th meeting.
I'd like to second that motion.
There's a motion and a second. Are there any questions on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion to approve the amended minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, please say no. Okay. Council has before it an agenda for this evening. Are there any questions, changes, additions to that agenda? Alex had asked me prior to the meeting if we could address potholes in the village. So under TPW, we're going to add that as an item. Are there any other additions, amendments, anything? If not, a motion to approve the agenda as amended would be in order.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
I'd like to second that motion.
A motion and a second on the floor. Are there any questions on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion to approve the amended agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, please say no. Okay, council has received the Treasurer's Report for the village. Are there any questions, changes, corrections to that report? If none, motion to receive and file the report would be in order.
I'd like to make a motion to file a treasurer's report as presented.
I'd like to second that.
Okay. Motion by trustee Kennedy, second by trustee Arundel to receive and file the treasurer's report. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, please say no.
You have to do a roll call.
Oh, that's right, it is roll call, my apologies,
Oh.
thank you. Getting ahead of myself.
All right. Mr. Hawkins?
Yes.
Mrs. Swack?
Yes.
Mrs. Arundel?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes. Thanks for catching that, Jennifer. All right. Council also has before it the accounts payable for January of 2022 in the amount shown. If there's no questions or corrections, a motion to pay those bills would be in order.
I'd like to motion that we pay the bills as stated for the general, $7,153.12. Major at $1,258.87. Local at $124. Mill and park for recreation, $0.
I'd like to second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to pay the accounts payable in the amounts stipulated. Are there any questions on the motion or the bills? Hearing none, we'll have a roll call to pay the bills, please.
Mrs. Swack?
Yes.
Mrs. Arundel?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mr. Hawkins?
Yes.
Okay. And pay the bills. Next item on the agenda is 2020-2021 budget amendments. I spoke with Judy just before the meeting and we decided to, we'll handle those amendments at next month's meeting, which will actually give us time to close out February, most of February's books. So we'll not do the amendments tonight. At this time, the village council has scheduled a public hearing for our budget and for truth and taxation in the village as required by law. A notification was also published in the official newspaper, the Oxford Leader. At this time, in order to take in public comment, we will open the public hearing. Before we do, I will state that the budget has been available for review in the clerk's office, and that the note as well as required by law and according to the notification. So if you have any questions beyond that, please, or comments I should say, please address them. We are not increasing the millage, we're not lowering it, it's going to stay at 7 mils, which is our current millage rate. With that, is there a motion to close the regular meeting and open the public hearing on truth and taxation and the 22-23 budget?
I will make a motion to close the regular meeting, open the public hearing on truth and taxation for the 2022 to 2023 budget.
I'd like to second that motion.
Okay, there's a motion and a second to close the regular meeting and open the public hearing on truth and taxation. It's been suggested to have a roll call on that, so if we could, Lori?
Absolutely. Mrs. Arundel?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mr. Hawkins?
Yes.
Mrs. Swack?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, at this time, is there anyone that would like to address the village council about the budget or the truth in taxation questions? Basically, we're not increasing our, it's called, the truth in taxation hearing is basically to inform residents about increases in governmental costs or spending. But we are staying at the 7 mils that we have maintained for several years now. So there's no technical increase, and in fact, that that number is reduced every year by heavily by a little bit. So it's a ratio between how much property values increase and how much the taxable millage decreases because of heavy. So does anybody care to address the village council on that? Okay. Hearing none, let's see, we started that at,
7:09.
okay, thank you. Okay, so we have to close the public hearing in the same manner that we opened it. So is there a motion to close the public hearing and resume the regular meeting?
I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing for budget and truth and taxation and reopen the general regular meeting.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by trustee Kennedy, and a second by trustee Swack to close the public hearing. Do we have a roll call on that, please?
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mr. Hawkins?
Yes.
Mrs. Swack?
Yes.
Mrs. Arundel?
Yes.
Okay, at this time in the meeting, the village council is open for public comment. We ask that you be brief to the point. There is a 3-minute time limit for addressing the council. And if you have an item, if you are here for an item that is on the agenda, you will have an opportunity to speak at that time on that item. Would anybody care to address the village council? Yes, please stand and state your name.
Hi, my name is Nicole Reed. I'm here on behalf of a group that's interested in bringing one recreational marijuana facility to Leonard, Michigan. I did collect signatures today, but it has been my experience that it's better to come to the council first and introduce myself, try to work with you, make sure that establish a relationship instead of dropping the petition on the first step with no notice. That tends to make councils angry. So, a little bit of information. Last year, munis that had a recreational facility received about $28,000 from the state excise tax that went into their municipal budget. If it does go on the ballot and if it did win, then your zoning commission would have total control of where it could or could not be. Most municipalities choose to have it at least 1,000 feet from schools, some choose 1,000 feet from churches. Again, that would be up to the zoning board or commission. And I understand that you cannot respond to me, so I put my phone number and email on the sign-in sheet so that you can reach out if you would like to speak to me further. I would definitely be happy to work with any member of the council who's interested in this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Okay, we'll close the public comment period of the meeting. And for new business, the village council will consider the proposed 2022-23 village budget. The highlights of the budget are, as you've already heard, we're maintaining the same millage amount, even though we could increase it if we had to, because we are under the statutory limit. I'm pretty happy with this budget. It does propose increases in salary for the administrative officials as well as the trustees and the planning commission members. I recommended this because there hasn't been an increase in those wages since the late 90s at best. 96 probably was the last time. In fact, because it has not changed in that period of time, the law has changed, and in order to, along with adopting the budget, we have to adopt an ordinance where that is stated, that will be in our code of ordinances, and we'll also have to adopt a resolution for the planning commission pay as well. Times have really changed. The total amount of the budget, which is balanced, or will be balanced, is $252,787.24. The major and local budgets, which basically cover the roads, and our are theoretically funded by Act 51 gas tax monies remain basically the same as previously, depending on how much we spend in those budgets. It has some impact on our general fund because we generally have to support them because they don't bring in enough money for certain things. And we're still paying for 2 of the municipal bonds for the roads as well as for our DPW truck. We have 1 or 2 payments left on that, which are annual payments. So I'll open this up to the village council. Are there any questions, suggestions, etc. at this time? The change in the change just from the salaried accounts represent about not quite $4,000 change in our annual amount of spending for the officials. It won't require us to change the amount for the planning commission because the planning commissioners generally don't meet every month. So if they did choose to, or they do, we can adjust. We'll have enough to adjust for that. We'll be able to keep a balanced budget. So I'll open it up now. By the way, as part of this, looks like we're going to continue to see a smaller number for the population of Leonard. It was 403, and now it's going to be anywhere between 377 and 401. That's as close as I've been able to get from SEMCOG and from the census. So that being said, the state revenue sharing is based on that, as is gas taxes, etc. So that will have some small impact, but I think we've had a couple new homes built in the village, and generally increases in value, so I think it will balance out as far as income goes. Judy, did you have any other thoughts on this?
No.
Okay. Okay, I'll open it up to the council. Any comments, questions? Okay. Cindy, any comments, questions?
No, do you want me to? No, I'm just here to listen.
Okay, all right.
I don't have something to say every time.
No, that's fine, but you're here. Okay,
Gotta keep track of you.
that's,
You know that.
keeps us on our toes. Okay, so what is the council's pleasure then as far as the 2023 proposed budget? Is there a motion to adopt it as presented or any modifications?
I'd like to make a motion to adopt the 2023 budget as presented.
I'll second that.
Thank you. There's a motion and a second to approve the proposed 2022-23 balanced budget for the village of Leonard. Any questions on the motion? Hearing none, could we have a roll call for adoption of that budget?
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mr. Hawkins?
Yes.
Mrs. Sweck?
Yes.
Mrs. Irondale?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Okay. Then along with that, item number 2 is to adopt it's basically a salary ordinance, a village ordinance for salary. We also have a resolution for planning commission payment, wages as well. So we'll lead off with the salary ordinance. So the purpose of the ordinance is basically to satisfy state law that we've adopted to provide for compensation of the village officers and members of the village planning commission. Shall I read the whole thing, or how do you want to do this? we,
I don't think you need to read the whole thing.
okay, well, basically this, and this sets the wages for the village officers and for the planning commission members. Planning commission members will be covered by a follow-up resolution once this is adopted. So, what's the pleasure?
Do you have to fill in the blanks here? Or those are-
Yeah. That's a good point. I meant to send that out complete. The president of the village will receive $5,000 a year. That's up from 1,000, or up from 4,000, as will the treasurer and the clerk. The trustees will each receive 10 additional hours per meeting.
So that's 45.
45 per meeting. And the planning commission members will receive, well, that's actually set by the resolution we're going to adopt next. So what is the pleasure of the council for adoption of this ordinance?
I would like to motion that we adopt the ordinance for Chapter 2, Section 2.5 regarding the village and how the officers and members of the village are paid going forward.
Okay. Is there a second for that motion?
I would like just to add with the numbers that we've set forth.
Okay. Okay, so well, it will be in the ordinance.
Sure, and understood.
Okay.
But otherwise, I will second.
Okay, so there's a motion and a second to adopt the ordinance as code amendment to code amendment ordinance number 1.010. Section 2.5 of Chapter 2 of the Village Code of Ordinances for compensation of village officers and members of the Village Planning Commission. Is there any questions on the motion? Hearing none, could we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Hawkins?
Yes.
Mrs. Sweck?
Yes.
Mrs. Arndale?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. McDonough?
Yes. Okay, so the ordinance is adopted and will be published, the notice of adoption will be published next week. The next item on the agenda is the resolution of compensation for appointed planning commissioners of the Village of Leonard. So basically, this resolution provides that the planning commission chairperson shall receive $45 per meeting for the duties and responsibilities of that position. The planning commission secretary shall receive $45 per meeting for the duties and responsibilities of the position. And the planning commissioners shall receive $35 per meeting for the duties and responsibilities of the position. So does the council wish me to read the entire ordinance? Are
Did you
there-
like copies for everybody? Because you never sent it to me.
Oh, well, I did send it out quite some time back. Nobody got it?
I have 2 copies of the previous ordinance
Just that, that's all you got?
for ordinance.
Yeah. See, I never got a copy of it.
My apologies then. I'll read the whole ordinance in that case. This is the resolution. This is a resolution of compensation for appointed planning commissioners of the Village of Leonard. Whereas the Village of Leonard Planning Commission performs and recommends planning, zoning and planning processes and decisions for the Village of Leonard. And whereas the Planning Commission is composed of a chairperson, secretary, and commissioners. And whereas the planning commissioners perform their duties and are compensated by the Village of Leonard. And whereas it is the desire of the Village of Leonard to compensate the commissioners for their service and responsibilities. And that now therefore be it resolved that the Village of Leonard does hereby authorize the payment of each planning commissioner for the duties they perform by the following schedule, which is planning commission chairperson shall receive $45 per meeting for the duties and responsibilities of the position. That's up from $35 previously. Planning Commission Secretary shall receive $45 per meeting for the duties and responsibilities of the position. That was also $35 previously. And the Planning Commissioner shall receive $35 per meeting for the duties and responsibilities of their position. Be it further resolved that the Planning Commission shall be paid from the general fund of the Village of Leonard and direct such fees and services as may require Planning Commission direction shall be required to ensure adequate fund income to perform such services as may be required. And be it further resolved that the village treasurer is authorized to pay such compensation according to the schedule in effect at the time of payment. So I would ask council for a motion and a second to adopt that resolution, and we'll have a roll call vote after that.
Am I allowed to vote on it?
Are you sick?
No, but I'm on the council.
Yeah, no, you can vote. You don't get paid by this. You still get your trustee with it.
Oh,
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt the amendment and adopt the ordinance as presented.
I'd like to second that motion.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second to adopt the resolution of compensation for the appointed planning commissioners for the Village of Leonard as read. Are there any questions on the motion? Hearing none, do we have a roll call, please?
Mrs. Swack?
yes.
Mrs. Arundel?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mr. Hawkins?
Yes.
Okay, motion carried. Okay, moving on then, the next item is mileage reimbursement at 58.5 cents per mile. That is the current federal allowance, which is usually how we do this each year. So we require a motion and a second to make that modification to 58.5 cents a mile.
I would like a motion that we move to the new standard for mileage reimbursement to 58.5 cents per mile.
I'll second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second to reimburse for mileage for official duties the amount of 58.5 cents per mile. Are there any questions on the motion? Hearing none, could we have a roll call, please?
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mr. Hawkins?
Yes.
Mrs. Swack?
Yes.
Mrs. Arundel?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Okay, in regards to the American Recovery Plan Act, which I've been kind of updating you each month on, the final rules were released last month for how communities can use that money, and that has not changed. It has not been reduced where and how you can use that money, but it has been opened up. So the government, rather than make us have to have an accountant to tell us whether or not we lost money or made money due to COVID, they have authorized a standard deviation as a standard deduction as one of the options. That standard deduction does not require us to have to do a single audit. It doesn't require us to do anything more than declare that we are taking the standard deduction and we can use that money in our general fund for identified projects, which in our case, I would recommend that we use it for drains and potentially for the sewer studies that we'll be looking at. So currently, they haven't changed the amount of money we're going to get. We're supposed to get about $42,000. We've gotten $21,000 of it yet. We haven't allocated that for anything. And I have to report in April what we're going to do or what we have done with that money. So by adopting this as our strategy for the ARP money, it will give us more control over how we use it, and it will cut down the paperwork a lot for us due to that change. So, what is the council's pleasure? I'd really like to have a motion and a support and a passage of a motion to take the standard deduction. But if we could wait until April, if we had to, I don't think our meeting would be before that time that I have to report it. But I really I'm recommending that. The other options are you can use it for broadband service. You can use it for Clean Water Act projects, which include the sanitary sewer and water supplies for communities. The original, before the final rules were announced, the original use of the money to make up for lost income to communities due to COVID restrictions, loss of business, et cetera, loss of taxes. You can still do that, but they've offered this standard deduction for, I think probably because a lot of communities said, and I looked into it, it was a very onerous formula that the federal government has that you have to use to distribute or to demonstrate where those losses were and how they were accrued, etc. This standard deduction basically eliminates that. It just says you're going to use the money in accordance with the direction of the act, and if you say that, and we're going to use it for drains and/or Clean Water Act, being the sanitary sewer system, then we can use the money that way, and we don't have to prove that we had lost money due to COVID or not. That's basically where it's been simplified.
So aside from the hassle of the formula and stuff, is there any negatives to taking standard deduction? Is it a lesser amount or?
No, it's the same amount.
Okay.
And
So it's you just don't have to do the paperwork?
Well, right, that, and there was some, you may recall I brought up the fact that we had to look into the single audit.
Yeah.
That was also basically eliminated. They set a cap on that. If you receive $700,000 or more, you have to do a single audit. Since we're only getting $40,000, we won't have that cross to bear either. So final rules really were a vast improvement over the tenant interim rules, they call it. We could have still spent money, but under these rules, where it's much easier to report, etc.
Sure. I'd like to make a motion that we proceed with the standard deduction for the ARPA.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Trustee Kennedy and a second by Trustee Swag to use the standard deduction for the ARPA monies that the village will receive. Are there any questions on the motion?
Can we put in there that, that the money will be used for the drains and the sewers?
It's up to Alex.
Sure.
That would probably be a good idea.
Yeah, that makes sense. That way there's official recommendation for it.
I'll resecond that.
I approve.
Okay, thank you. Jennifer's second stands. Alex's motion's been amended.
Yep.
So, are there any questions now? Beyond that? Hearing none. Can we have a roll call, please?
Mrs. Arundel,
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy,
Yes.
Mr. McDonald,
Yes.
Mr. Hawkins,
Yes.
Mrs. Swack.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, council. I really appreciate that. I think that's going to be a real benefit to the village and not as administratively difficult, so. Okay, I can't say that you did, but I guess we did. All calendars for the village council meeting, the village planning commission, the summer festival, the decorating committee, cable commission, Army and Trail, and NOTA are in your, were in your packets. Are there any questions, changes, or corrections on our meetings? The village council or the planning commission? Those are the two we really only have control over. If none, a motion to adopt the village meeting schedule would be in order.
I'd like to motion that we adopt the village council and committee meeting calendars as presented to us for 2022 to 2023.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion and a second to adopt the village meeting calendar for 2022, 2023. Are there any questions on the motion? Okay, all in favor of the motion to adopt the calendars as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, please say no. Okay, they're adopted. Okay, the final item under new business is related to my announcement at the beginning of the meeting. I received a phone call late in the evening on, I believe it was Thursday night, that one of our residents at one of our one of our CDBG eligible residents had a failure, heating failure, and they thought it was their boiler or something like that. And in looking into it, I learned that the resident was actually in hospice, and that the house had been cold for almost 24 hours, and they were using the stove to try and warm the house. So I considered it enough of an emergency that I looked into and obtained and authorized the use of village funds, so to speak, to have a heating and cooling company come out and fix this. Now, it had to be fixed. I felt it had to be fixed right away because of this situation in this case. I ordinarily would recommend that we get our applications and I bring it before the council and we would consider it and either approve it or disapprove it. But I really think and thought at the time that everybody would agree that this was a worthy eligible case. So we were fortunate enough by paying the extra money for emergency repairs that Lake Orion Plumbing and Heating sent a person out, and after about 3 hours work they were able to get the boiler back up and running and repair there were frozen pipes that had burst up in the upstairs. So I have presented Lori with the applications, with the signatures and all of the required block grant information, so that I don't expect there to be any problem getting reimbursement from block grant for this. That being said, I apologize for not taking the time to contact each one of you individually prior. Just the sense of urgency just seemed to dictate that we got to get this fixed and fixed fast. And as you heard, Mrs. Haynes may have passed on, but she passed on in a warm house, thanks to us and our block grant funds. So I make no apologies for that. Okay, so I would appreciate it though if council would pass a motion to approve the application for assistance so that we can get reimbursement from block grant.
I would like to motion that we approve the CDBG application
For 98 East Elmwood.
for 98 East Elmwood.
I'll second that.
Motion by trustee Arundel, second by trustee Swack to approve the block grant project for 98 East Elmwood. Are there any questions on the motion? Hearing none, could we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mr. Hawkins?
Yes.
Mrs. Swack?
Yes.
Mrs. Arundel?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to old business. sewer system update. There really hasn't been a lot going on publicly. I've had several conversations with Trustee Arundel and with Paul O'Meara, the consultant. We're still, and I also contacted the United States Department of Agriculture about their loan program. And what I learned was that currently the loan rate is 1.75%. They're still using 2010 data for their population numbers and for median income. But they said that they will update it when the economic data is available from the last census, which I was informed there wouldn't be any change by the census. But, so I'm not sure, I can't think like they do. I don't know if that is temporary or if that is permanent. But regardless, what I have learned is that you have to go through the application process with the Department of Agriculture before they will give you an indication of whether or not they will give you a grant and forgive some of that money based on the cost to the resident. In other words, if it's, they keep track of the average cost for sewerage across the United States, and then by state, if our project made our residents have to pay 40% more, 45% more, that's what it was a couple years ago, then they would forgive up to 45% of any amount of the loan. So, in a sense, being poor has its advantages, I guess. I don't know any other way to put it. So, basically, unless anybody else has anything you want to add, that's kind of where the village is right now.
And we don't know those numbers yet, right?
No.
And that's part of the study.
Paul keeps telling me that they're getting closer.
Did they help you on the application? Is that why you work with the department?
Yeah, I am a row. And I'm working with Paul. He and I, good point. Remember last month, I got authorization to apply to the county for, they have an infrastructure grant. Well, the deadline was January 31st, but they changed it mid-month, last month, to March 31st. So Roe is going to assist us fill out that application, but it won't be for another month or two. So that's where things are right now.
Mike,
Yes.
what is the time frame of this? Is this going to go on forever, this study?
No. COVID didn't help, Cindy.
Well, I know
it was just
that.
difficult to get things going, but no,
Is it moving along pretty good?
I can't say what's good or bad. I just don't have enough experience with it. We're doing the best we can. Most of the work that had been done by Roe in the last couple of months had been putting together the residential equivalency units, trying to look at, properties, potential systems, what kind of system would work for the village, given the area of the village that would be covered, things like that. So now I think we're at the stage where we have to take those options and then communicate with Roe. And we've actually looked at neighboring communities to see if they have any capacity that they would want to sell to us, rather so we, instead of building a plant, we could pipe it somewhere else. But we're in the very early, and I want to stress that, the very early stages of that. We have to consider Addison Township and the other communities. There's a whole lot of variables. It could be very good or it could be very bad, depending on what we run into. So my main concern at this point is whether it's even feasible with what the cost will be for a community our size to be able to, shoulder that burden. Until we have those numbers, we're just speculating.
Is there an alternative though? I don't see an alternative. You gotta do something. From what I understand, people in town don't have the space if their thing goes out, their sewage goes out.
Well, it's a catch-22, Cindy, because it's funny, but the county health department has never condemned the property. They've always allowed the people to fix it one way or another, but they place restrictions on those repairs. So it devalues the property, there's no question about it. But we do have residents that say, why should I pay for somebody else's problem? Or why, I mean, we all have.
No, but I know if the village had a sewage system, I really could see some growth taking place here.
Oh, inevitably, yeah. And that's part of what we're covering is what impact would it have. Addison Township doesn't want to have anything to do with sewage treatment. They don't want facilities in there any more than they have in their community outside of the village. So they're watching very closely too to see what we're up to. So I wish I could say more or be more definitive. I really can't. Anybody else?
No, just know that we're taking the steps and we're trying to figure out the best avenue for the village, for everybody.
I understand that because I don't know, there's a lot of new people, but I know we are not wealthy. So if we had to tie into that,
That is
I don't know.
That is a highly expressed concern because I've been trying to find out a lot from the census, and I believe it's about 30% nearly 30% of the village is senior citizens. They're people over 60, 65 years of age. And the families are smaller than they used to be, so there's, with obvious exceptions here and there. So it's a big deal, especially in a community this small. So, okay, all set, Jennifer. Okay. Anybody else? All right. Next item of business is DPW. We listed potholes under this. Alex, did you want to make a comment on them, or?
Yeah, it just seems like they need to get some more cold patch here. Forest Street's starting to take quite the beating down by the Pollyanna Trail, and even by the crosswalk right down here. I came home yesterday and it seemed fine, but now there's probably something you could lose a fire extinguisher in.
Really?
That potholes. So
I didn't know.
it's pretty bad.
We bought some cold patch from the county after that last freeze thaw cycle we had, where we had a couple big ones. But I've actually already messaged Don to let him know, we've got to do something.
I think we should have them run up and down Forest Street and just get an eyeball of how much he needs.
Yeah.
It seems to be degrading really fast this year.
And unfortunately, 51 on Wednesday and snow on Thursday is not going to help.
Right, so we're gonna get
Totally gonna fall apart
raise.
over-
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So-
Anytime you get salt on the road and then,
Was it 5 to 8 inches a day on Thursday?
although it is holding up better than normal due to the crack ceiling, I will say that. The edges are still having a problem, but most of the main part of the road are holding up pretty good, so not gonna do it. Okay, we good?
Yeah.
All right. For my part, the president's report, I normally don't count every inquiry we get by phone about marijuana or sewers or gas, like when people call about infrastructure or things like that. But we do get a lot of them. And case in point is tonight, the woman that addressed us. We get a lot of marijuana calls. People calling, not people, companies wanting, attorneys wanting to know what the village, if they can.
They're not from around.
No, and I don't think she was either. And it sounds like this lady has some experience if she's appeared before other commissions and councils. I'd also like to mention that if we're required to have a vote, well, unless it's at a general election, we have to pay for it. So there's some downside to cost-wise, and as she indicated before, it's just like with alcohol, we would have to adopt an ordinance and have, rules and regulations regarding that.
But haven't we already adopted it on the marijuana ordinance?
We have followed state law, provided that unless you opt in to allowing marijuana, you are considered opted out. So we never opted in.
Right.
As far as medicinal marijuana, we adopted an ordinance that regulates that within the village.
Right.
Recreational is only allowed for members of the household,
Right.
adult members, which would be normally 2 adults, 6 plants each, and that would be the maximum that anybody could legally do. And I hate to say it legally, in Michigan, that's the most they can have would be 12 plants.
Correct.
And that's all we allow. We do not allow, by opting out, we don't allow dispensaries, we don't allow production facilities, etc. Orion Township and Oxford Township, and I believe Oxford Village, have opted in. They have dispensaries and grows in those communities. They do provide some income. The question really is does it benefit the local government that much? We don't have police, we don't have our own police, we don't have,
We barely have 400 people.
Yeah, I mean, our administration is kind of what, all of this increases the amount of administration needed in the municipality. You can't not administer it, you have to regulate it, you have to try and recover, not to mention it's still illegal federally. I mean, I'm just not real comfortable with it at all. From a village point of view, I think it means more. Addison Township and Detroit Edison are working together because these grows, these facilities now, I think she was here talking about a dispensary, but if the grow facilities and the production facilities use huge amounts of electricity. And Detroit Edison is even telling local communities now when they're getting these applications they want 300-400 amp services, which is like 2 or 3 times what the normal house would use. It's pretty clear what they're going to be doing on these pole barns and buildings and homes.
So where's the medicinal? What's the ordinance for the medicinal?
It says the same thing as, it does not allow, I shouldn't quote it because I've
You
got it.
had an area, but I don't remember where, I thought, that you had said.
Well, the law requires that it be a confined or secured area indoors. So beyond that, it's in.
What do you mean, locked doors to the building? Is that what you're referring to, or a fence around it?
I believe it has to be in a structure, Sydney.
I'm just curious.
Yeah.
Why are you growing something?
Not me, but I'll tell you what, there's something in the village.
Yeah, I'm aware of it.
I heard you were.
Yeah,
There was somebody complaining about it, and I went by it, and it is quite powerful.
I agree. There's actually, there's probably 2 in the village.
That would be my guess.
Yeah. So, but as I started to say, Addison Township has been trying to do something with them. The county prosecutor won't touch them, the sheriff's department won't touch them, they don't want, if a local community wants to enforce the marijuana laws, you pretty much have to do it yourself. The state prosecutors, nobody, it's just a bad situation for local communities. That's the bottom line. we certainly wouldn't want to spend our money with an attorney to try and regulate marijuana when we have bigger problems than that to
Well,
deal
they
with.
definitely
But,
better money.
yeah,
That would-
yeah. So that's kind of where we are right now. So, CDBG report, obviously, we got an application and you approved it tonight. I'm sure the family appreciate it. I know I do. And then ordinance enforcement, I've had nothing major going on at this time.
Do we know anything about yeah,
Only that they have secured it. That's all I know. They have not responded to any letters from our attorney to them. And their only response seems to have been to send somebody over to fix stuff. Or secure the house, really. And if you check back, you'll remember the village attorney did send us a letter. John probably wouldn't have it, but we did get he explained all the things that.
I was just wondering if you've heard anything from
Yeah, no, nothing, no, sorry.
Taxes are all paid.
Pardon?
Taxes are all paid.
No, I don't believe they are.
They're not paying the taxes on it?
They were 2 years behind.
How long
next
does
year.
that go on now?
Well, one more year.
Okay.
Yeah, some discussion
And
over
then it just goes
Go
back.
rip that house down myself.
Yeah.
Just don't say that on camera.
Do I
Okay.
look like get me mad enough, I probably could.
Don't, please, nobody gets sick.
Actually looks better. If the yard was mowed, it actually looks better.
The village did basically take care of it, most of it last.
Oh, the village was doing it?
Well, we had a community service guy that he did
Oh, yeah, I
hours.
heard that, yeah.
So it was just easier to have him do
Hey,
that.
that's fine. But now
But I don't know what's gonna
this
happen
year.
this year. This year, it's not gonna be as easy, probably.
It was
Okay,
nice to see the one in Lakeville go down. It looks nice now.
oh, yeah. Okay, you guys know what she's referring to? Remember that, okay. All right, trustee committee reports, summer festival committee. I was at the last meeting and they're moving forward. Their expectations are to have a festival. The fire department has said in some way, shape, or form, they will support the festival. They just aren't guaranteeing at this point that they'll have enough members to do the ice cream the way they have in the past. So I think they're going to work with the festival committee, and Lori, that's pretty much my impression of what.
Well, it's going to be our 70th annual festival, so it's kind of a huge one. We want to make it really something special. So we're really reaching out to people to see if we can't bring in more volunteers, using social media, and just, but yeah, we're planning on fully going forward with it. Going to have some surprises, but then the usual stuff: strawberry derby, pie eating contest, bake off, parade, all the usual good stuff. But definitely looking for help.
Well, that's a good point about the parade. They're looking at two options for the parade. Having it at the noon, which is the traditional time, or moving it to 4 o'clock. The reason they are considering it, and correct me if I'm wrong, but they're considering it because they want to put a car show along Elmwood Street. And so the cars could be in the parade at 4 o'clock and then disperse after the parade, and they wouldn't have to, it wouldn't shut down Main Street if they wanted to leave during the day.
Right.
So.
And locating them there helps them avoid using the dirt road to bring their valuable asset in to have us all move all over it.
Yeah.
So that would be the bonus of it. But I know that, it's going to be difficult for people to accept a time change. So we're just kind of kicking the tires and see what's going to work.
Yeah. And we'll see, we're also looking at having the strawberry derby again on West Elmwood. So we'll probably be looking at closing that street at that time again. this year. Just give you a little advance notice. Okay, Cable Commission, John, we don't have anything on, there's nothing.
No, the next meeting is the 28th, I think.
Okay,
So the last one was you.
okay, thank you.
It's in there.
Decorating Committee? Anything?
Nothing yet. We
Okay.
plan on, we'll start working on the Christmas stuff already.
Okay.
So we're planning on, again, doing the same thing that we did last year, but just making it bigger.
So,
And having the vendors come in and everything.
oh, okay.
More to come,
Okay.
a lot more to come, but
Okay, the Decorating Committee, not decorating, North Oakland Transportation Authority, they had their meeting last week. It was also, they had an inaugural trolley. They've gotten a trolley from Smart that had been in use in Troy. When Troy had stopped using it, and they offered it to NODA to use on Thursdays and Saturdays. They're having an event this month and part of next month called Something Together, Communities Together. So it's a shared, downtown development districts of both villages are paying, had pledged to pay for it. In the meanwhile, a donor has stepped forward that's willing to pay for all the costs. NODA is not using NODA money to run this. It's all being paid for by third parties. So none of our tax dollars, none of the money that is contributed to NODA for senior and disabled transportation and for veterans, that's not changing. This hasn't, isn't going to cost NODA anything. It is an experimental program. But, wish them success, and it's actually kind of a cool looking trolley if you happen to see it on 24.
It's gonna run between Oxford and Lake Orion, right?
Right.
On those nights.
Correct.
It's a
Yeah.
driving trolley. It's not just a decoration trolley, it's an actual.
Right.
No, it's got heated, it's got, windows, heat.
It's been updated.
And it's running on Thursdays from, I think, noon to 7. And on Saturdays, I think it starts at 10 and goes a little bit longer than 7, something like that.
And there's certain stops where it stops at, they've got designated
Yeah,
stops.
in Oxford, it's behind the Funky Monkey, that,
The parking lot.
on the corner there, that parking lot. And then in Orion, it's on Shadbolt, like the second block in, down where the municipal offices used to be, down in there. They have 2 stops in each community. And right now, from what I've heard, it's averaging about 22 minutes for the circuit. Like 22 minutes one leg, 22 minutes the other. So, and they're working on an app so that you can know where it is and when it'll be available. So it's something different. We'll see how it works out.
They're hoping to coordinate things between communities so that they'll make use of that trolley.
Right. They would like to keep it going. This is basically a trial program at this time. So, we'll just see how it goes. The Planning Commission, I don't know, I don't
I
know.
didn't hear from anybody.
Yeah, we did not meet in December. It's been a while. I think the sidewalk study was the last thing to be sent.
Okay.
I don't remember if she's presented it to council or not.
Yeah, she did.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so,
You're gonna cancel the meeting, or
no, I think we'll just leave it, and then if we have to,
do you want me to get in touch with Leslie and find
I was
out?
gonna say, I don't know if there's
yeah,
anything
would you,
to the,
I don't know if you have anything going on.
it would just be to meet the number
Yeah,
required.
okay. Yeah, I believe the law requires 4 meetings.
So, I mean,
4
we could
meetings a
postpone
year
it if-
for a planning commission,
Leslie,
I think you've got your 4 in though for this
I
year.
think, yeah,
Yeah,
for 2021.
for 2020,
for the 2021,
21.
Oh, for the past fiscal year.
So
right,
that-
22, 23.
And that being the
Yeah.
case, we'd probably just skip and just go to March then. Because if you know, I don't,
Yeah,
So do you want to cancel?
because there were
Let's
2
talk
in
about
the
it.
fall, there was it an October and a December one? There were 2 just recently,
Yeah, I thought so too.
Yeah,
I
that
thought
makes sense.
and
December.
I think there were,
yeah.
I can check it tomorrow.
But I don't know if there's a reason, so if there's no reason, there's no
Well-
reason to.
Well, that-
For sure.
And we can just pass those in this.
Sure.
So you want, should we,
I have to check in with time to pay you guys.
well, the chair, Leslie can cancel it if there's nothing to come for them.
Okay.
And we'll post it and let them know if that happens. Okay, Alpine Trail, they have a meeting this Wednesday. It's winter time. They're doing mostly maintenance on equipment, not much going on. It's still nice out there. I've gotten a couple compliments on the village because Don plowed the
That's nice to have that done.
yeah, plowed the paved part so that people can walk their dogs. And I believe he leaves enough fresh, untouched snow so that cross country and hikers or snowshoers. Yeah, we're fortunate. So, and then for the village park, that's pretty dormant right now. I haven't heard anything from the county on the grant application, but I don't expect to until the end of the month anyways. So,
Mike, on that, are we gonna go to, I know we talked about this, to Oakland County, was it Main Street? And ask them for any, like, designs or anything?
their architect has agreed to assist us. They set aside, not cash per se, but they set aside a certain amount of professional time for every community that's part of Main Street or associated with it. So we have some opportunity for assistance.
So are we just waiting for approval for the grant to kick him off or her off?
Right. The grant is for it's a pre-preparation of study. In other words, they'll take what we want, put together the engineering plans for it, and whoever we hire to do it will have a professional architect or landscape, available. Roe wrote us a request for quote document, and they had 3 of their people that helped draft those requirements. So, but it's not guaranteed to them. I thought they had a very high estimate, but so we based the amount of money on that because that would more than cover, I think, the actual costs, at least hopefully.
Mike, when you get going on this, is there any point where you have to inform the surrounding landowners about what's going on?
Well, we do with public notices and public meetings. I mean, it's not a zoning change or anything like that where we are required by law. But if you want to know, if you could send me an email and I can let you know when we have something.
I don't, who gets it when, do you do the emails? Because I did sign up to be informed when it's canceled or whatever. The meetings,
This meeting?
any meeting,
I don't-
is the way I took it.
No, I thought,
The law says, well, I haven't looked at it in a long time. The law used to say if you wanted notification, you had to provide the municipality with means to contact you. Generally, that means stamped self-addressed envelopes so that if there's a communication or something.
In this day and age, I supply my email address.
I know. Well,
To
see,
somebody, I don't know who gets them.
well, the Village of Leonard email gets them, and then either I or Judy or Lori or any one or 3 of us look at it. But
Well, you
I
should
don't.
got it then.
I remember seeing
I thought
your
it was a
name
sign-
added to the newsletter.
right, for the newsletter.
You're on, I know you're definitely on the newsletter list, but there hasn't been a newsletter or
Okay, I'll
similar.
have to look. So is there a place on there that I can
The last page of the website, I think, is,
There should be calendar of events on the website, so I will update that
I
calendar.
mean, I'm pretty much here anyway,
yeah,
so, but, you know, I mean, this is our property you're talking about. If you start digging,
yeah. If-
I want to know about it.
Send an email to the village asking to be notified of the status of the park when there is an approved grant, something to that effect. And that way we'll
Okay.
try and keep you in the loop, okay? And you can always call me.
Bang on your door.
I don't know.
Your vicious little dog will come out eating.
Okay, moving on, we did get our community development block grant report this month. Pretty much status quo. I believe the repairs for the project we just finished for Mrs. Haynes was a little over 800,
It
right?
was 821.75.
821.75.
I'm
So that-
surprised it was that cheap.
That isn't reflected in the numbers on the block grant report for this month. And believe it or not, I think that's all I have. Council members, comment?
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
I make a second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to adjourn at
8:11.
8:11.
Yeah, you might want to get that going. Doesn't look very good on the
We
TV.
just realized tonight when we came in, that we looked for batteries, couldn't find them. But thank you, Cindy. All in favor of the motion to adjourn, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, please say no. Good evening, everybody.